The last room is the office. Looks like I can do a few things for demonstration purposes. I want to make this room bigger. I think it's kind of a boring house with just that. We're gonna take this wall and extend it down this way. And we're going to take this wall and extend it over here, or copy it over here. So on a stacked wall, I don't use the create similar feature. Sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't. In this particular case, it didn't work. So for stacked walls, I simply copy them over and then modify them. And I want to do the same thing here. And now you can see that I'm going to have a rectangle sort of this size, which means there needs to be an exterior wall here. I happen to have one, so I'll copy it. If I already made here, and I'll just copy it over to here. And then we'll clean it up in a moment. But I'm also going to need a wall here. So let's copy this back wall because we know that one's good. It has a lot of stuff in it. The create similar would have been nicer because it wouldn't put all of the windows in there. We're just going to copy this wall, and that wall has windows in it. So the first thing I'll do, the template unfortunately has a couple of renderings in there from me in the template from the previous job, and we can just ignore those. So I got, now this wall is better. So what do we have to do? Well, let's use the trim extend to clean these two up. Notice I clicked on the pieces that I want to keep. And then, well, let's get rid of these items in this wall, the door and the window. And we'll use that trim extend. I want to keep this part of that wall, but I want to keep this part of this wall. If I click on here, so my second click, then this wall will take on this shape. So we click on these two pieces and see what happens. And we'll do it again over here. And this wall also has some windows in it, so let's get rid of those. It's the same wall. It just happens to be copied with, when you copy it, it takes walls too. Now, here I'm going to do the align first of all. I'm going to align the face of that gypsum board with the face of this gypsum board. You notice that when I started out, I just copied them, those walls anywhere, not being too concerned about it. So let's take this guy, and this guy, and this guy, and clean them up. I'm going to do this wrong just to show what I mean. If you click on the pieces that you want to keep. So I'm going to click here and watch what happens. It cleaned these guys up that way, which is not what I wanted. I want to keep this and this. I click those two and it'll clean it up properly. All right. Now, remember we want the 2-inch increments. So let's see what we have here for our overall dimension here. That looks really good. And over here, that does not. So this, we click on the wall that we want Revit to move when we change the dimensions. So let's change it to 22 feet. That's probably still going to be right. And the reason is because this wall lines up, this wall lines up with this wall, but it's not. It's not going to give us our even inches of increment. So let's see, take a look at this. Click on this dimension, this one. I'm going to say edit the witness line, which allows me to add another or several other dimensions into it, then I need to place it. So I can see that this wall needs to change. So instead of 36, I'm going to make it 34. What that's going to do is in my office space, I'll have a little cubby hole back here. This guy, we need to put another wall in here, like this one. This one we can use the create signal because it's not stacked. The location of the line that I draw external, I hit the space bar. It's not an exterior wall, it's just what is the relationship of that wall to the wall that I was drawing. Look, we have the carpeting in there, we have our subfloor in there. This guy, right? Let's change that to 4 feet. Let's see what happens. Now that cleaned this one up too. So now we have our even inches, but maybe this might be the problem. So let's double check it. And in fact it is. It's good here, but it's not good here. So let's see what happens if we align this wall and this wall. So what I'm going to do is move this wall 8 inches, 30'8". And then I'll align this wall with this wall. No, I'll align this wall with this wall. So then you can see the huge library. Let's change that down to 6 feet. It's just getting too big. It's much more than a library, which is okay too. So what do we have here? Let's look at the consistent colors. This is my subfloor. It needs to be extended. That's an example of why I don't draw the subfloor in until I'm sure of my wall locations, but it's okay. We'll modify it. I'm going to change back to hidden lines because it's easier to see. This, I want to edit the boundary. That's my subfloor. Plywood subfloor. I want to edit the boundary. And now we'll just draw the new boundary, which goes, remember, it goes to the face of the plywood. And to here, let's see if we can pick that. So, over to here. Now I need to clean that up because a floor is similar to an extrusion that it needs to have a closed entity. I'm going to isolate this category so you can see a little bit better. And see, well, this, sometimes isolating the category doesn't do what we want, but I think this might be what we're looking for. Let's reset the temporary height and see what happens. This, this one's going to go back to here. So I'll align it, and Revit's not selecting what I want, so I'll hit the tab key until it does. That's where I want my subfloor to be. And check mark. Now my subfloor is right, my carpeting is not. So again, we'll edit the boundary. And let's try pick line this time just to see if it makes it a little bit easier. I mean, the carpeting is going to go to the face of the gypsum board because of the sequence in which it's put in, and it wouldn't be, carpeting would be one of the last things that would be put in, meaning that the gypsum board would already be there. And we need one more. This one I'll just draw a line from here to here, and then clean it up. That's the new carpeting. Looks good. Let's see if it is. If it accepts that, if Revit accepts it, then it is, then it wasn't closed entity. All right, I'm going to save that. Just hit the save button. And now let's do some cool stuff here. Let's put in, what would you like the desk to be? I think the desk might go best, maybe perpendicular. Get it perpendicular to this wall. We'll have more access to that and we can do better windows. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to do an extrusion to draw my desk countertop. Make it an extrusion. The desk is, I think it's 42 inches tall. And so, oops, right. I can change the height later. It's maybe it's 32 inches tall. Because it is a little bit lower. Yeah, let's make it 32. It's slightly lower than a kitchen countertop. Let's make it 4 inches thick. So if it's 2'8" at the top and it's 4 inches thick, it would be 2'4" at the bottom. And now I want to make it out of cherry. I like a nice cherry material. So we'll click on these 3 little dots. They appear when you just click on the line here of the material. Library should pop up. Up here, we'll just type cherry. Type cherry in the properties box, but you have to spell it exactly the way that it was spelled in your properties. So if cherry was spelled differently, then it wouldn't recognize the material. So I generally go to the library because that's where it's properly spelled. All right, so we have the height, and we're going to draw, well, let's just draw a rectangle. Let's say that's our desk. Now, how wide do we want that desk to be? 4 feet. And how long do we want? Now notice I'm clicking on the object that I want Revit to change. When I change this to 8. Okay, so now there's my desk border, the perimeter of the desk to the right constraints. And I'll say okay. And I'll say okay. So now I've made my own desk. Let's take a look at that in 3D. It's just the top. I didn't make a component. I'm actually making my own desk, and I'm going to add some more coolness to it. So there's that. Well, all we have now is that. Let's go back to the. I'm going to make another pretty cool support for the end of that. We're going to do that. We're going to go to this view. There's my countertop. And let's architecture component. We're going to make another extrusion. Let's still call it casework. And you notice that Revit keeps saying casework, and then it adds a number. And find any value to change that. So let's do an extrusion again. In this view, extrusion, Revit wants to know where the plane is that you're starting with. So when we put our values in there. So let's see if we can pick a plane. Let's see. This wall would be nice. Okay, it did pick it. So that's where my extrusion is going to start. It's going to be from that wall. Well, let's make it 12 inches thick, so 2'8". We'll start it at the wall, and we're going to move it later. And we'll make it 14 inches thick. It's still cherry. So I'm actually gonna, originally it's gonna be mounted on that wall, but I can stretch the extrusion later. All right, so let's draw a shape now. Trying to think, let's say we want that shape to look like this shape that I just made. Yeah. Let's change the color so it's easier to see. So make that shape. Now let's see if we can mirror that about the midpoint of this desk. Yeah, it did snap to the midpoint. All right, so I'm just going to enclose that right now, and we have to do another one here. And say okay. And say okay. Now let's look at it in 3D. It should be up against that wall now. The wall between the stairs and the library, and sure enough it is. But I want it to be out here, not a problem. We'll go back to here. We're going to move this section line right through that extrusion, and then we'll right click and say go to view. There's the extrusion. Let's see if we can just move it. Nope. It's not letting us move it, but we can stretch it because we have those grips. So we'll do this. So it might be a little bit wider than we want it to be. Let's see if I edit in place, click on this guy, edit the, oh, here's the depth right there. So we'll just change it to 1'4", which is what we wanted. Yep, that's good, except let's see if we can move it now. Here, no, it's still not letting us move it horizontally. All right, so I'm going to pull this guy back to here, and then I'm going to pull this. So now it's 11 9/16. Let's put in a reference plane right here, and let's copy that reference plane 14 inches, and then we can align the other face of that. So we got it. Might be a better way, but this works. Let's take a look at what we've done here. Yep, now we got a little bracket to hold that up. So let's go back to the floor plan, and we're going to look at it in this view. And then let's see, do we want to see all of these dimensions in this section right now? I don't think so. So VG for visibility graphics, annotation category, type the letter D, it'll brought me down to the D's. And I don't want to see the dimensions. They're in the way. Okay. And what the heck, let's get rid of the levels too. VG for visibility graphics, and L for levels. And we're not deleting them, we're just telling Revit, don't display them in this view. Okay, I'm going to do architecture, component, model in place. We're going to do casework still, that's the family, and it just adds another number to the word. As I say, change that. Void form, I'm going to make a void extrusion this time. Again, we have to pick a plane. Let's see if we can pick this one. Yep, okay. And then we're just going to draw a rectangle, right? Doing it by eyesight, but let's do that. How deep do we want it to be? It starts at that plane and it comes out. Let's make it a minus. And we'll just go back a foot. It'll make more sense in a second. If this works, let's see. We want to cut this and this. I can do it. Let's go to the 3D. This is the same issue that we had with the firebox opening, so we should be able to make that work. There's my extrusion. Maybe let's grab it and drag it out a little bit farther. It is. Let's see if it'll work. If it doesn't, we'll try the solution that we had last time. Oh, it didn't. Okay, so we'll finish the model and it's going to delete that void form. Yep. So I'm not sure what we didn't do right. We might have to activate this void. Let's activate this. We're going to say we're going to modify this extrusion. So edit in place. Now we'll go back to that section. And maybe we'll edit the extrusion. Let's see what happens if we do that too. All right, so now we'll create a void form extrusion. The plane, which would be this guy. Box. So I'm gonna put a box in there so we can put a book or something. Now we'll say okay. We'll say cut. Let's see if it will let us cut this time. Cut. And finish. And we'll look at it in 3D. I think the void is there, but it's not extending beyond this guy. Let's see. We'll change this to a wireframe. Maybe we can see if there's a void in there. But it sure looks like there is. So let's drag that void out a little bit. Nope, that's this extrusion. Oh, that's good. There it is. Yep. So all we have to do is drag it back. It should be okay now. It just wasn't cutting this shape. That was the issue. Let's change that to consistent colors. There's a void in there now. Yep, very good. Okay, kind of a goofy shape, but that's okay. That was a basic idea. Just to put in that desk and to extend the library a little bit better. Let's look at it in the plan view. Yep. Put a chair over here. We already have one. So create similar. Put that chair over here. Spin it around. That's the. Yep. Now we have our chair and a desk in there. What else would we like to do? Well, we got to put some windows in. So for now, we'll just say create similar. Let's put a couple of windows in this room. For now, we'll stop. Whenever I'm working and it takes a long time like that to do something, which it is obviously taking a long time to put that second window in, I always stop and save it after that. So if it doesn't crash right now, then I'll put that window in and then go up and save it real quick because it shouldn't take this long. I don't know why it is. But that would be our end of this guy demonstration. There we go. Right away, I'm going to save it. I guess we have one less thing to do. We want to put a reference plane in the middle of that room. Okay, let's see if we can grab to a midpoint. See it? Okay, we'll just put a reference plane in there. And then we're gonna grab this guy, this guy, this guy, and say equal. That move the reference plane equal. Then we'll take, we want the window to be in the same relationship, and we'll just say equal. So now the window is equal distance away from the edges of the wall here. We don't need this anymore, so we'll delete it, hit the OK button, delete it, hit the enter button because it defaults to OK. And we're going to save it, and we're going to say that is more than enough.